Before we dive into today's story, here's a quick summary. Meet Karen, the entitled HOA president who thinks she can park anywhere, including in your garage. What starts as a small inconvenience quickly turns into a week-long battle of petty revenge. But as karma would have it, she gets a taste of her own medicine. Trust me, you won't want to miss how it all unfolds. But before we jump in, I'd really appreciate it if you could take just 1 second to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to me and helps me bring even more HOA drama your way. Now, let's get started. HOA Karen continues to park in my garage. So I locked it and went on a week-long trip. It was a quiet, peaceful afternoon when you pulled into your driveway, ready to finally unwind after a long week. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden light over your property. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of fresh grass. And you were looking forward to relaxing in the comfort of your home. But as you approached your garage, your heart sank. There, parked squarely inside, was Karen's oversized white SUV. It was completely blocking your garage, as if it were her personal parking spot. Karen, the ever-present HOA president, had done this before. Her sense of entitlement always seemed to extend to your property. She'd park in your driveway, leave her car there for hours, and act like she had every right to do so. This wasn't just an occasional mistake. This was a pattern. You could feel the frustration bubbling up inside you as you stared at the vehicle. It wasn't like she had an emergency or anything, just pure disregard for boundaries. You tried to stay calm, taking a deep breath as you steeled yourself for the confrontation ahead. Enough was enough. You marched up to Karen's door, your boots crunching against the gravel, each step louder with your growing frustration. You could already feel the familiar sting of annoyance as you reached her front porch. There was no reason for this. And yet, here you were again. You knocked sharply on her door, the sound echoing in the quiet neighborhood. After a moment, the door creaked open, and there she stood, Karen, draped in a fluffy robe, holding an iced coffee like it was her personal crown. Looking entirely too comfortable, she blinked at you, feigning surprise. Her expression so disingenuous it made your blood boil. "Oh. Hey. What's up?" she asked. As if you were the one inconveniencing her. You pointed toward the driveway, trying to keep your tone steady. "You parked in front of my garage again," you said, trying to remain calm, though you could feel your patience wearing thin. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she casually took a sip of her coffee, looking past you as if you were an inconvenience she'd rather ignore. "Oh. Right. I was just running a quick errand. Your driveway is just so convenient. You know?" Her words dripped with entitlement. But you knew what was coming. This was just her usual excuse, a few minutes that always turned into hours. You stared at her, the silence stretching between you both, your fists clenched at your sides. Enough was enough. It was time to take matters into your own hands. With your patience exhausted and Karen still lounging around as if nothing was wrong, an idea sparked in your mind, something simple, but sweetly petty. Without another word, you turned on your heel and walked back to the garage, your boots scraping the gravel with purpose. You could feel her eyes following you, probably expecting some kind of back and forth to follow. But you were done. You didn't need to engage with her anymore. You reached your garage, grabbed the lock, and secured the door. The satisfying click echoed in the stillness. There would be no way for Karen to leave her car in your space now. With a smug grin creeping onto your face, you turned back toward your truck, grabbed your bags, and made your way to your car. It felt almost too good to be true. As you started the engine, you couldn't resist. Just before pulling away, you snapped a picture of her SUV trapped inside your garage. Her car now completely blocked in. You typed out a quick message, adding just a touch of flair to your revenge: "Enjoy your stay, I'll be gone all week." With a final glance at Karen's house, you drove off, the peace of the open road welcoming you as you headed off your week-long getaway. The best part: she had no idea when you'd be back. The further down the road you drove, the more satisfying the silence became. Your phone buzzed constantly with Karen's calls, but you ignored each one, the screen lighting up with her name over and over. Each ring was like music to your ears, a reminder that your little plan was working perfectly. You could almost picture her face, that mask of feigned innocence, slipping away as she realized her mistake. An hour passed, and you were well on your way to enjoying your weekend when your phone buzzed again, this time with a message notification. You didn't need to open it to know what had happened. Karen, desperate and panicked, had finally resorted to the only move she knew: calling 911. The message confirmed it. She was in full meltdown mode. She'd already made her dramatic report to the dispatcher, claiming you had intentionally blocked her in, trapping her car inside your garage. You could almost hear the exaggerated panic in her voice as she recounted the hostage situation, completely unaware that she was the one at fault. When the officers finally arrived, they were far from impressed. The sheriff, a grizzled man who had clearly seen more than his fair share of neighborhood disputes, listened to Karen's frantic tale with a mix of patience and indifference. After hearing her out, he simply gestured toward the locked garage and shrugged. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but firm, "this is private property. There's not much I can do." Karen's face turned bright red, her mouth opening and closing in disbelief. "What do you mean you can't help me?" she demanded. But the sheriff's response was as simple as it was final: "You parked in his driveway. Technically, you're trespassing." He looked her over, as if trying to decide whether to give her a lecture or just walk away. Karen stood there, furious and defeated. But there was nothing she could do. The sheriff turned, his patience clearly spent. "Looks like you're stuck, ma'am," he muttered. And with that, he walked back to his patrol car. Karen was left standing there, helpless and humiliated, her plans of escaping her self-made trap slipping away with each passing second. A week had passed, and you had thoroughly enjoyed your time away from the chaos that Karen always seemed to bring. The peace, the quiet, the complete absence of HOA drama, it was exactly what you needed. But now, as you pulled back into your driveway, a sense of satisfaction washed over you. You could already see her SUV, still parked in your garage, exactly where you'd left it. Not only was Karen stuck, but the whole week had gone by without her figuring out how to escape her own mistake. As you stepped out of your car, you caught a glimpse of Karen's house. The blinds in her windows twitched, no doubt her eyes watching you from behind them. You couldn't help but smile to yourself, the smugness bubbling up. This was the kind of peace you needed, knowing that she had been stewing in her frustration the entire time. You glanced at her SUV, still trapped inside, and there was no sign of Karen anywhere on the property. You knew she'd eventually have to arrange for someone to come help her move the car. But by now, it was too late for any easy solutions. After all, how could she explain to anyone that she'd parked on someone else's property, and spent a week locked in? Unable to do anything about it. It felt almost too perfect. Karen, the HOA president, the person who had made everyone's lives difficult, finally getting a taste of her own medicine. She had learned her lesson. Even if it was the hard way. You took a moment to enjoy the silence of your driveway, knowing full well that she'd be forced to find a way out eventually. And you'd be watching it all unfold from a safe distance. Karma had truly come around. And it couldn't have been sweeter. And that's where we leave things for now. Karen, stuck in her own mess, learning a tough lesson about boundaries and respect. What do you think? Do you think she got what she deserved? Or should she have had a little more compassion for the situation? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this wild tale. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts. Hit that like button. And subscribe to the channel for more stories just like this one. There's always more drama, more karma, and more HOA chaos to come. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.